to the OhioRAAM Show.
Well, hello. It's Lee Kreider here with the OhioRAAM Show. No, Jim is not here. He's still working at that job. He promised me it was going to end, and he'll be with us hopefully next week. So we really need him back with us because we miss him a whole bunch. And while I was doing something there, I got rid of my schedule over here to see what I'm doing. I can't remember it, so I have to look over here. We come to you because of the Race Across America time stations here in Ohio. Time station, get that up here. See, that's why I need Jim. 41 in Oxford, 42 in Blanchester, and 43 in Chillicothe, Ohio. Time stations operate around the clock, 24 hours a day. And then, of course, we want to thank Mike Minium, who puts the signs out, the sign man, and we'll be talking more about him at a later time. And our guests today come from New Zealand and Canada, and we are happy to have them with us talk about the TransCanada event. We'll find out what that is in a little bit. But they were asking where the name OhioRAAM comes from, and it comes from the fact that these videos started out as being made by the time station, Race Across America time stations here in Ohio, and it just morphed into it. We've talked about changing the name, but this is the name that we are known by and perhaps liked or disliked by, so we're just going to stick with it because we cover all phases of ultra cycling as we are going to do today. We have a place for your comments and questions. You're watching on YouTube or Facebook. In the comments section, just put a comment in there. We will see it here. We will post it. You can ask questions, make comments. And if you think of nothing else, just tell us where you're from. We would like to hear that. If you're watching on Twitter, I'm sorry, we can't see you. Twitter don't allow it, but maybe they will someday. Who knows? And Facebook has changed everything. I guess I'm there. Let me see. I can tell too. Yeah, I got people on Facebook here, so we're glad to have you, and it's going to be working. Oh, we got a comment here already. Blair Curry's from Toronto, Canada. Okay, glad to have you with us. We hope that you'll have some other comments as we go along. I don't have, John Hoopengarner, we were following him during the Natchez 444. He finally did finish. We hope to have him on here for a little bit, but I don't see him yet. Maybe he'll pop in a little bit later. If he does, we'll say hello to him. And then we want to talk about next week, which is Patricia McGinley from Dunglow, Ireland. And she has set the world ultracycling record for Ireland, south to north. And she has an interesting story to tell. We'll be glad to have her on next week, same time, same station. And we hope that you will enjoy that. Okay, let's get right to our guests. Just be sure, I should say, to give us a like on a follow on Facebook, a like there. If you're on YouTube, we'd appreciate your subscribe. We're growing in both those areas, and we appreciate it quite a lot. Let's first of all bring in Louis-Eric. Do I pronounce your name right?
Yes, you're correct. It's good.
Well, I did have a little French in college, little being the key word. And so at least, and you did give me a cue on your form you filled out, which I just saw recently.
Right.
I did get a chance to talk to you. The thing on your form, I have to ask right offhand, you said ex-quadriplegic?
Yep, that's correct.
Tell me
When I
about
was
that.
12, I was doing acrobatic high board diving, and I took a few too many lessons, being a bit of an hyperactive kid, one after the other. And on the way down from a high jump, I lost consciousness and I hit the bottom of the pool, and I got a C3, C4 unstable fracture, from which I recovered.
Oh, well, that's good. That's often not the case, but I'm sure you learned about life. How long were you
Oh,
incapacitated?
I was mobilized for about 6 months,
Oh,
and I had to relearn how to move, how to walk again. After that, I was the first kid out of 997 to actually recover at that specific hospital since they opened.
and you had a lot of therapy, I suppose.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yep.
And,
Yeah, those mean people that make you do things you don't want to do.
I was very grateful for them, and
Yeah.
it's great because it makes every day after that kind of a wonderful gift and makes you eager for life.
Well, like I said, we try to treat this show like we're just down at the coffee shop meeting,
Right.
down at Starbucks, and whatever comes, whatever strikes our mind. We do a little planning, but as you can see, darn little. Um, so, Chris Bennett, you're in New Zealand, and it's early
Yes.
Monday morning there, isn't it?
Yes, a delightful spring morning here in New Zealand. The sun is shining, and I live at the beach, and I can see the ocean glistening. So life's good. I grew up in Canada, actually, across not too far from you in Toronto, but got tired of winter about 40 years ago, so moved to New Zealand.
Oh, you should never get tired of winter. I mean, I love that time.
Can't ride your bike in snow, my friend.
Can you hear Louis now, Chris?
I've not heard him so far.
Oh, do you hear me now?
I can hear you, but
Let's do the cell phone ad there. Do you hear me now, Chris?
Chris, can you hear him?
No, if I did, I'd let you know.
Well, that's strange, and it probably has to do with our provider server somehow, and there's nothing I can do about that. So I'll try to. We'll just roll with what we've got, and that's life in the internet. So, Louis-Eric, tell me about how you come up with this crazy idea of the TransCanada, and is it a race? Is it a brevet? What the heck is it?
It started as a race. The problem with calling it a race is that for people like Chris coming from abroad, the insurance industry is not quite used to a bike race being something like a marathon or a triathlon where amateurs participate. They always imagine it's a pro race, with a full retinue of people following you with prizes at the end, and so they often refuse insurance. I was looking for a better word to try to capture what it is, which is an individual challenge within a specific context. So for the first year, we called it Brevet. I don't think it fully encapsulates what we want to call it. So I'm looking at ultra or challenge right now as an alternative.
Well, okay. So in our title, I called it a brevet. I didn't know what else to do with that. I didn't want to get you in any more hot water with insurance people than you already are. So, yeah. Well, how did you come up with this idea? And I'm curious about how long it took you to plan this fantastic route. How long is it?
It's 12,500 kilometers, so about 7,000 miles or so. And I started planning right after I did the TransAm bike race in 2018. I had a wonderful experience doing that event. The scenery across the states from Oregon all the way to Virginia was absolutely stunning. The people were great, and I really enjoyed it. I thought, well, we have something to show here in Canada as well. We have a more diverse, longer territory. And it is within kind of bucket list of almost every experienced cyclists in Canada to cross the country, at least west to east, and maybe even north to south. So I thought, how about I give everybody a chance to do north to south and west to east in that hockey stick fashion, which is pretty appropriate for Canada. And so I've been working on this every year, doing the phone calls, validating the roads, speaking with law enforcement, speaking with every single town that we could reach. And overall, the path took about 1,000 hours, roughly, of planning to come up with. Unlike other events, we do not benefit from a pre-existing road. Some people always imagine the TransCanada, I think it's called the Trailway or the whichever it's called, which is this government thing that's been promoted. But in reality, it doesn't exist really on the ground. Smaller communities have opened up a trail for running, one for cycling, one for kayak, one for ATVs, but it's not really approachable as a cycling event. So doing the research was pretty long. Especially, I had pretty high standards of what I wanted this path to be.
It's hard to imagine, from your place to what is it, Yellowknife is where it starts, or
yeah, White Horse.
White Horse. I knew it was some color and something, but yeah, and I know that you don't just make one trip to plan a route. It takes a number of trips to do it right, doesn't it?
Oh yeah,
Louis.
Oh yeah, it does.
So I'm amazed. Now it actually touches every territory and province, does it not?
Except two of them. So it doesn't touch the Northwest Territories, and we don't touch Nunavut.
Okay, all right.
Far too up north, and
So,
it'll be a different kind of event.
I mixed up on my Canadian geography. I confused Northwest with Yukon and want to merge them together. But yeah, okay. Well, and interesting because my wife and I have done a lot of cycling in the Maritimes, and we enjoy that quite a lot, particularly Prince Edward Island, and one of our favorite places of all time to cycle. And I would highly recommend, if you want to do bike touring, Prince Edward Island is the place to go. I mean, the primary colors, red, blue, and green, dominate that place, and I love it. Hey, Spiegel Bikes is in here from Montreal. Do you know anything about Spiegel Bikes, Louis?
Oh, I do. I've been watching what they're doing. We've been following each other on Facebook as well.
Yeah. Well, you're up there close by, and we hope that you get to know that's real well. Thanks a lot for popping in here, Spiegel Bikes, and anybody else. We come here, tell us where you're from. So, Chris, how did you get attracted to this crazy idea of riding TransCanada event?
Well, I think like most Canadians, at least who like to cycle, I'd always dreamed of cycling Vancouver to at least Toronto, where I grew up. And I got into the ultra endurance cycling, probably about 10 years ago, because I went through an Ironman phase where I did an Ironman in every continent, and then thought, what's next? So I did like the Tour Divide, and then I did the transcontinental races, and I did the race across Australia. And I then had an injury in a race, so I didn't cycle for a little while. So this year, I was missing Canada because during COVID, we had a lockdown in New Zealand. And so we weren't able to travel for 2 years. And my last visit to Canada was 5 years ago after my mother died. So I was really longing for Canada. And then on the 100th anniversary of her birth, this Facebook feed comes across saying the TransCanada Ultra. And I thought, oh, hello, what's this? And to me, the idea of riding from Whitehorse all the way across Canada held an attraction. So I thought, this would be nice to do. And I went and spoke to my wife, who said, yep, fully behind you. So it was game on.
Well, I'm glad you got your wife's permission to do this. That's always a good thing.
Oh, she's 110% supportive because she knows that cycling is my happy place. It's where I'm a Christian. I enjoy just spending time praying and just being out on my own. And she knew it would be really good for me also to have some closure with Canada. So she was more than supportive. She was fully behind it.
Well, at the risk of becoming evangelical here, I will say that riding your bike when you're by yourself is a great place to pray and meditate and just think about general meanings of things. So I'm not going to call you the winner. I'm going to call you the first finisher, Chris. Am I correct?
Well, actually, no. I was the second person to finish, but I did win the race. So the context is this: is that there was going to be a grand depart, and Louis-Eric can correct me, but a few of us were going to show up. But I got COVID. I work as a volunteer ambulance officer, and I picked up COVID on duty, and so I wasn't able to make the grand depart. And so Henri from Montreal left on the original day of the grand depart, and I left 2 weeks later. And so if you look at the elapsed times, I had the shortest elapsed time. So I guess I would call myself the winner per se, but I wasn't the first to finish. Henri has the honor of being the first one to ever complete this adventure, and hats off to him because he had a lot worse weather than I did.
And Louis is shaking his head, so he agrees with that. That's good. So, what was the most difficult part of the entire trip?
It's really hard because it took me just under 52 days of riding, and it depends what aspect of difficulty you want to get at, because it was a self-supported race. I'm not sure if your listeners understand what that means. So maybe Louis-Eric, would you maybe explain what your rules were, which is quite germane to answering what was the most difficult thing one encounters?
Absolutely. So a self-supported race, you have no teams, you have no support. You have to manage your sleeping arrangements, your food, your health, your mechanical work all by yourself using commercially available options. So you cannot have prearranged help of any kind. In the context of the TransCanada, we do allow a long event, and people can get quite lonely. We do allow people to stay at two places with friends. But in general, you have to use hotels, campings, the ditch on the side of the road, whichever restaurant you want to use, and you have to be fully autonomous.
Okay, and that's pretty typical of most self-supported races. Now,
yeah,
I've never been to Yukon, but my image is that it's a long way between places. Louis seems to agree there. Chris, talk about resupply during those long stretches. What were the greatest distances you had to deal with, and how did you deal with resupply?
Yeah, so and that's one of the aspects of difficulties that we're getting at earlier on, because there's many layers of it. But for some context, I raced across Australia, and when you go across the Nullarbor Desert, it's like 400 kilometers between water stops. And so it gives you a different perspective of distances between resupplies. And so in Australia, you had to really worry about water and food, whereas in Canada, there's lots of water around, particularly because it had a really heavy rain going on. So in that respect, the distances are probably maybe 300 kilometers between resupply points. So it wasn't anywhere near as difficult as Australia, because you didn't have to carry, say, 5 liters of water. You could get water by the roadside in places. So the resupply wasn't such a challenge. The biggest challenge with those was that sometimes, though, I'd identified resupply points before I left New Zealand. A lot of those were closed due to COVID. And so you'd get to a place and find, oh, okay, well, that's not there now. So I always have a policy of carrying one spare day of food with me. So I had enough food that if something went wrong, I wouldn't have a problem. So, and in terms of your bike, you're carrying your tent, your sleeping bag, your rain gear. And so I'd have about 6 kilograms of clothing and supplies, but then you'd have another probably 3 to 4 kilograms of food and water with you as well, just in case you didn't get those resupply points. In fact, if I can tell you one funny story, on the third day in the Yukon, I'd found this hotel that was about 250 kilometers from where I was starting. I thought, okay, I'll have a nice, easy 250K day. So I got there and there was just forest. There was no hotel there. And I cycled further on and there was a helicopter adventure place. And I stopped in there and got a bit of food. And I said, so where's this hotel? They go, oh yeah, it's in the wrong spot in Google Maps. It's 200 kilometers back where you come from. And I thought, oh, that's not too good. So I sat around and I had a bit of food and I just got on my bike and kept on riding. And as I got towards 300 kilometers, I thought, oh, I should probably find a place to camp. And then I saw a huge sign saying danger, grizzly bears, next 40 kilometers. So I thought, oh, okay, this isn't too good. So I did a short prayer and I cycled 2 kilometers. And then there was a rest stop, first one I'd seen all day long. And so I parked my bike in the toilet and camped next to the toilet. So the bears would at least not attack me in the tent with my gear.
Okay, well, we just had John Hoopengarner drop in here. Let's see, I'm trying to mute your mic, and it doesn't seem to want to work. I don't think I can hear you, John. Let me.
I want to say I wasn't too worried about Chris being attacked by bears. If you look at the way he's built, he's very efficient. He has a very, very wiry body, so there's not a lot of meat there to attract a bear.
Yeah, I'm having trouble here with John's mic. I can't. John, do you want to go out and come in again? And that maybe I'll bring your mic back if you can hear me. So, yeah, John here, I wanted to get a little chat with him some point because he just finished the Natchez 444 last night. So he looks a little like he just finished the 444. Well, while we're doing that, let's, well, I was going to ask you, we talked about the worst part. What was the best part?
Riding my bike every day for 52 days.
Okay.
No, but yeah, so I mean, because it was really, I mean, I know it sounds bizarre because you always have the hard times. Like I have a traumatic brain injury from my bicycle crash. And so like when it was raining and there was lots of truck noise, it was really bad days. But every day I was just so grateful to have this amazing course that Louis-Eric found that was usually really safe. So you have to worry about being killed. Then I'm riding through beautiful countryside and I'm just out riding my bike, which is my happy place. And so I had so many of those. I also was able to tick off some goals, and this will sound really wacky, but I've always wanted to cycle 500 kilometers or more in one push on one of these races. And I tried in Australia and blew up at 470K. And I did manage to do a 536K day from Revelstoke to Calgary. And so I was really chuffed to get that goal ticked off. I was just really happy to meet amazing people and see the scenery. And it's just an amazing course. And you're seeing a beautiful country on your bicycle. I mean, it doesn't get better than that.
Okay, let's interrupt you here a little bit to see if we can get John in here and get him. Let's see if we're hearing him now. John, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Lee. I hope you can hear us.
I hear you fine.
Sorry, we're late.
Oh, no problem. No problem. We're just glad to have you at all.
Service is a bit sketchy down here.
Yeah, the service is a little sketchy even now. Let's so you finished the Natchez 444, did you? Apparently, he's in his car and he's breaking up. Well, we'll see if it gets any better. Maybe you'll get into a better spot. But John and Rosemary did the reporting. She did a wonderful job. And I have to apologize to Rosemary if she can hear me. She sent me all this wonderful stuff after I did the last report. And I was going to.
I did. I
Okay.
got it.
Okay.
It's 8.
Yeah, you're breaking up, John. I'll tell you what, John.
8:15 last night.
Okay, last night I didn't get the time there.
And I got my totem, which
Okay, I tell you what, you're breaking up so badly on this end that we can hardly hear you. Hey, Rosemary, shoot a little video of this telling how he finished, will you? Okay. Yeah, I don't know if he's hearing us or not. Well, we're not gonna, John. We're just not getting you here at all. So, yeah, okay. All right. Sorry about that, guys. We've spent a lot of time with John, and Rosemary did a wonderful job. Let's see. Spiegel Bikes. Wants to know if we could organize for Marco Ballo to do the challenge in the future to come.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it would. I don't know if Marco's into self-supported. Christoph Strasser did the transcontinental self-supported, and that was a new experience for him. I figure if he can do it, Marco can. Well, you talk to Marco all the time, Spiegel Bikes. Talk him into it. We'd love to have him try that. I'm sure Louis would be glad to have him.
For Spiegel, I'll be in Montreal at the beginning of November. Let's have dinner and find a way to get Marco on board.
Yeah. Got to make sure those Spiegel Bikes can carry. Oh, I shouldn't say that. We know they can. Now, on the OhioRAAM Show website, if you look here, you'll see a link to Chris's blog that he did about the trip across Canada. It is a great read. Spiegel says, let's work on that. Okay, that's you, not me. As I read the blog, the thing that caught my interest was your problem with electronic shifters. And after all that trouble you had, you still like them or still use them. Talk about electronic shifters, what kind of problem you had, how you got it fixed, and why the heck you still like those things.
Okay, so the context is this. The rules of the race are that you're self-supported. And so you have to basically, if something goes wrong, you find a bike shop or you fix the bike yourself and just deal with it. I had my bottom bracket failed when I got to Thunder Bay. And so I had the bottom bracket replaced in Thunder Bay, which is probably just north of Duluth, Minnesota for you Americans, yes, at the western end of Lake Superior. And about 200 and 300K later, began shifting very bizarrely. I've never had this happen before. And I got worried. So I got it into what I call a workable gear, i.e. one that was spun too fast on the flat and too slow on the hills. And I lost my shifting entirely. So if you have a Shimano Di2, you know there's no way that you can actually change the gear from what it's in. So I rode with single speed through, this is west of Montreal River to Sault Ste. Marie, which is just north of the Upper Michigan Peninsula. And bless her heart, the owner, Heather of Algonquin Cycle, came in and they didn't have a battery. Because what happened was my battery went from 70 to 0 immediately. And I thought, okay, this battery's failed. So you have the option of either waiting for your bike to be fixed, which is what Henri did in Cape Breton when his bike broke. Whereas my view is, it's only a single speed. People race the Tour Divide and do 4,000 Ks of the Rockies on a single speed, so I keep on riding. So I kept on riding, and I rode up through Manitoulin Island and got to Owen Sound, which is about 600 K single speed. And I will say my legs were quite trashed by then. And the bike shop, I'd arranged for a bike shop in Toronto to courier a battery to Owen Sound. So I got the battery from the UPS store and then got to local bike shop. And it wasn't the battery. What had happened was a wire got pinched when the bottom bracket got broken. So the mechanic worked overnight. Great bike shop there, highly recommended. And next morning, I had my electronic shifting back. So the question is, given that you had this problem happen, why would you still swear by it? The reason is that I'm 62 years old. And if you can think of the number of times you shift the gears, cycling 12,500 kilometers, it's phenomenal. And I find that the pressure of using mechanical shifting, my hands would cramp up and I'd get really, really sore hands. And in these long endurance races, it's all about how do you minimize the demands on your body? And so to me, electronic shifting is a fantastic way of just saying, at least your hands won't get trashed as much with mechanical shifting.
Well, I read that and I'm thinking, I'm an old-fashioned guy with old-fashioned ideas and old-fashioned ways. And on my private bike, I still have, folks, now get this, down tube shifters with the little short cables. And I'm thinking as I read this, daggone it, I could fix that in 15 minutes with my down tube shifters, whatever's going on there. But that was kind of interesting read. Well, you could read more about that whole thing again if you go to the OhioRAAM Show website, which you see on there on YouTube, and there's a link in the description box. You can click on it. And Facebook has changed everything around for live streaming. I'm glad to see I'm on there. I see Spiegel Bikes and Blair was on from Facebook. So it is working there, but it seemed to indicate that there would be a place where the link would show up. I was going to try to bring Facebook up on this other screen, but I just didn't bother with it since I'm by myself and see if there's anything there. But OhioRAAMShow.com, in the show notes, which is right below the video, you'll see a link to the TransAm website, TransCanada website. Let me get my brain in gear here. And also a link to Chris's blog. And you can read the whole story of his trip across Canada. And Louis-Eric, you're going to be doing this again?
Oh, absolutely. I just want to say about Chris's blog, there is something which is not written in it, but has to be observed. Chris, throughout the whole race, has been so methodical in the distances he would cover every day, an average about 260 kilometers, every single day in, day out, no matter what the weather. And if you look at the pictures that he's taken, he's always in this almost beatic, happy mood. And to be able to manage that kind of effort so methodically, and also is in her life in the process is absolutely remarkable. Of course, Chris, the humble guy, is not writing that directly in his blog, but I think that should also be highlighted. We'll do the event yearly. The next one will be around the same date, so we're going to launch the Grand Depart on the 11th of June 2023, which is about a week before the equinox, so at this solstice, so that you have still a lot of daylight going into Yukon.
Okay, very well. Well, I want to thank you guys for being here and talking about the TransCanada. Don't go away after we go off the air. I got a couple things I want to talk to you about, Louis.
Okay.
But we thank you for being here, Chris, and taking time out early morning over there in New Zealand, and say hello to our good friend Joanna Sharp there in New Zealand, whom is a great friend of the show, and we love her so much. So with that, I want to thank all our viewers. Next week, let's get back to that. We're going to have Patricia McGinley on here from Ireland on her Ireland North-South WCA record, and I believe it's a Guinness record at all. We'll get that straightened out when she gets here next week. Thanks, guys, for being with us.
Thanks so much for the opportunity. All the best.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting us. Personally, I look forward to seeing what Chris does in the future. It's an incomparable achievement.
Yeah, go to that website, OhioRAAM read Chris's blog, and you'll see the link to TransCanada there as well, and stay in touch. And with that, we're going to go find Greg Zuber and see if he can't get us out of here.
This is Gregory Zuber, thanking you for watching and sharing.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.
Thanks.